Today has been declared the National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk on what would have been his 32nd birthday.
And in just a few hours, President Trump will award the Medal of Freedom to the late conservative icon. Charlie's widow and now CEO of Turning Point USA, Erica Kirk, will accept the nation's highest civilian honor on his behalf. Host of the Michael Knowles Show, Michael Knowles, also a very good friend of Charlie's, joins us now. Michael, what would Charlie think about receiving the Medal of Freedom from the president mere hours after the president was in the Middle East securing the release of the hostages, and to know that the president himself flew home early for today's ceremony?
I'm sure that Charlie would be appropriately humble about it, but we don't need to be humble on his behalf. We can be really proud of it, because I think it's totally fitting. You know, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is the nation's highest civilian honor, and Charlie really embodied that true type of freedom. In fact, he was famously wearing the Freedom T-shirt. A lot of times today, we think freedom is just the ability to do whatever we want. That's not really what it is. Lord Acton tells us freedom is not the ability to do what we wish, but the right to do what we ought to do. In other words, it's not just losing our inhibitions. It is discipline grounded in the truth. I don't think anybody embodied that more perfectly than Charlie Kirk in our whole generation, and I think it's totally fitting that he is given this great honor.
Well, here is Charlie talking about freedom and liberty, as he often did, in his own words here. Watch this.
What is so important to our country is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
Standing up against injustice, the most masculine thing you can do is stand up against the injustice and the suffering of others.
The campuses will hold the key to Western civilization. I truly believe that, and I know that I'm going to be fighting with every ounce that I have to save the greatest country ever to exist.
And Todd mentioned it yesterday, 20 people received their freedom, Michael. How do you think Charlie would view yesterday's remarkable events, an incredible moment for Israel, the Middle East, and President Trump himself?
I think the timing is certainly apt. You know, all nature is but art unknown to thee, all chance direction which thou canst not see. So I'm sure Charlie would love this great accomplishment, not just for our country, but for world peace. And the timing is beautiful. You know, on the civilian side of things, you know, the fact that the Medal of Freedom is the highest civilian honor, I think, is really important, because, as you just heard in Charlie's own words, he was such a great exemplar of civic virtue, of civilians having dialogue, of speaking to one another, resolving the nation's differences through you know, peaceful and gracious communication and deliberation. You know, that's really what the country is all about, and it is a model for the rest of the world. So I think that's an important lesson, especially to many of Charlie's countrymen who need to follow his lead.
Michael, as we know, Charlie lived for comparing and contrasting. He lived for that juxtaposition of ideas. I want to get your thoughts on this juxtaposition. In January of this very year, Joe Biden awarded George Soros, among others, the Medal of Freedom. Your thoughts on that contrast between what Donald Trump's going to do today and what Joe Biden did?
Well, it shows you that there's quite a difference that an election can make. And I think you heard in Charlie's words, he said, these campuses are the future. You know, in many ways, they really are like a crystal ball of what kind of country do you want to have? We can go this way or we can go that way. And Charlie worked so tirelessly to win the 2024 election on behalf of Donald Trump. And in recent days, I think we're getting a glimpse of what could have happened had Charlie and President Trump and others not won that fight. And as a result, we're honoring the people who deserve it in this country. We're honoring the great ideals that have made our country great, and not some of the worst people on earth who have done so much to destroy our country. You know, we really feel in the election, and I think in this even spiritual moment, that we have a second chance.
It certainly feels that way. We have a second chance in many ways, and we're kind of combining these two major topics of it being a day of remembrance for Charlie, along with a second chance for those hostages who were just released in Israel, and President Trump bouncing back and forth between the Middle East and now Washington to honor Charlie with the highest civilian honor. His wife Erica will be there to posthumously receive that award on Charlie's behalf. It will be an incredible day to watch. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.